is because we expect them to keep promises that were not in their gift to make in the first place. So, for example, the political system is quite complicated, and the way that laws are made and passed and changed is quite complicated. And there are many subjects, and I think you could take one, like the recent assisted dying bill, for example, that recently was put before the House of Commons and the House of Lords. People have a whole range of opinions on whether people should be able to die legally in an assisted manner. And there are many people who will have campaigned on that issue in the past, but they of themselves are not able to bring about a change in the law, right? So there's something about timing, there's something about opportunity, there's something about expectation, there's something about collaboration, there's something about perseverance, right? That's not the first time that this subject has come before the House of Commons for discussion, but it is the first time that it's been brought in this manner. And I think there's something about politics that is exciting, it's dynamic, it's unpredictable. And I completely agree with you that politicians lie, and I completely agree with you that they shouldn't make promises that they can't keep. But I also think that it's not necessarily the politicians' fault that they've been unable to keep those promises. If you look at the way that Westminster turns, it is really like the Wheel of Fortune, and depending on which triangle or square you land on at any given point in time, I have a huge amount of empathy for people trying to get anything done in that place. So I think what I've learned in the last couple of years is that if you want to see change, you've got to be willing to stick with something for a really long time. And I think we as a generation of people have become accustomed to getting things now, right? You want whatever cuisine you want and it will arrive in your door in the next 20 minutes, right? We're not accustomed to waiting anymore. We get Amazon Prime delivered through the doors, sometimes the same day. You know, we can have anything that we want in reach. And I think that's created an impact on politics through technology, through Twitter, through the way that people communicate with one another, that allows people to be engaged and to know what's going on, but to also feel this massive sense of disconnection and powerlessness because you have all that information, but actually, well, what does it mean for me? What does it mean for my community? How do I get to see change?
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on people like me who basically gave up on voting, just in general, like the vote?
But your vote matters.
Leah, I'm not sure, man. I'm not.
Because if everyone who is your friend or your neighbour took the same view, right? So how are you going to have an impact in a democracy if you don't get out and vote?
Because we've been lied to before and we're traumatized and we just got sick of voting and not seeing a change.
Okay, so maybe you don't need to vote. Maybe you need to run.
What do you mean by run? Like go for a run or actually run
for office? Become a local councillor.
Yeah, I've never had this type of conversation about politics. It's interesting though. So if I wanted to go to run for, how do I do that? Like, can anyone do it?
Yes, I mean.
Interesting. I wasn't even aware of that, by the way.
You probably need to choose a party. And you probably need to start hanging out with people who are part of that party and going knocking on doors and leafleting and campaigning with them. Find out what issues are of importance to local residents, go to town hall meetings, things like that. But you can also find out what causes are really important and see if you can volunteer with some of those charities or get to know some of the local figures who are doing interesting things. Find out what interests you, and maybe it's not becoming a politician, maybe it's becoming an advocate for a very specific issue. But I think part of it is knowing yourself, and we're called to be people who become the change that we want to see in the world. And if you're disillusioned and if you don't feel like you're seeing the type of representation that reflects your values, then it's kind of incumbent on you to step out in faith and say, well, maybe I could shake things up or do things differently. And that's how we eventually see change, is by people with that fire in their belly sticking with it. And